I grew up in Henderson Hardware, breathing in sawdust and paint thinner like other kids breathe fresh air. That store raised me. Every morning before school, I would unlock the front door with Dad, flipping on those fluorescent lights that hummed like old friends. I learned to cut keys at 12, manage inventory at 16, and handle difficult customers with a smile by 18. I thought I knew exactly where my life was headed. Then one Sunday evening, my parents called a family meeting. I walked into their living room expecting maybe a conversation about partnership or expansion. Instead, I saw my older brother Derek sitting at the head of the table looking way too comfortable. Something felt wrong. Before I tell you what happened in that meeting that changed everything, I want to know if you have ever felt overlooked by your own family. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. And if this story sounds familiar, hit that like button and subscribe because you are going to want to hear how this ends. Now let me take you back to that Sunday evening when my entire future got rewritten without my permission. My father cleared his throat, that nervous habit he had when delivering bad news. Mom sat beside him studying her hands like they held answers to questions nobody asked. The living room felt smaller than usual, packed with tension and family photos that suddenly seemed like lies. I noticed the oak table we sat around, the one I helped Dad refinish 5 years ago, working late into summer nights until our hands were raw. That memory felt important somehow, like a bookmark in a chapter that was closing. Dad finally spoke. His voice carried weight I had never heard before. We have been thinking about the future of Henderson Hardware. Your mother and I are not getting any younger. He paused, glanced at Derek, then continued. We have decided that Derek will take over as owner and operator of the store. The words hit me like a physical blow. My hands gripped the chair arms. My heart hammered against my ribs. My face felt hot, flushed with confusion and something darker I could not name yet. I waited for the rest, the part where they explained my role, my future, my reward for 15 years of dedication. Travis, you will remain as assistant manager if you want to stay on. Dad would not meet my eyes. We think this is the best decision for the family. The silence that followed felt endless. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I sat frozen, trying to process what I just heard. My mind raced backward through memories, searching for signs I missed, clues that this betrayal was coming. I was 12 years old, sweeping floors after school while Derek played video games upstairs. Dad ruffled my hair and said, "One day, son, this will all make sense." I thought he meant the store would be mine. I thought hard work mattered. I was 16, learning the inventory management system, memorizing supplier contacts, understanding profit margins, while Derek was at football practice. He quit the team 3 weeks later. I stayed at the store. I was 22 when a company in Seattle offered me a job managing their hardware distribution center. Good money, better opportunities. I turned it down because Dad needed help expanding the store. Family first, he told me. I believed him. Derek's history played through my mind like a highlight reel of failure. He dropped out of college sophomore year. He opened a restaurant that folded in 8 months after he spent the budget on expensive kitchen equipment he never learned to use. Mom and Dad bailed him out, paid his debts, never mentioned it again. He cycled through 3 different career paths in 5 years, each one ending when the work got hard or boring. And now they were handing him the family business like a consolation prize for consistent disappointment. Why Derek? I finally asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Why now? Dad shifted in his seat. Derek needs stability. He is the oldest. It is tradition to pass the business to the eldest son. The explanation sounded rehearsed, hollow. And honestly, Travis, you are so capable. You will be fine anywhere. You have options. Derek needs this more than you do. That phrase landed like a knife between my shoulders. Derek needs this more. Not Derek earned this. Not Derek is better qualified. just that he needed it like the business was charity instead of legacy. Mom finally looked at me, her eyes pleading for understanding I did not have to give. You understand, do not you, honey? We are trying to do what is best for everyone. Derek spoke for the first time, barely hiding his smug satisfaction. I have some fresh ideas to modernize things. No offense, Travis, but you have been running it the old way. I think we need to shake things up, bring in younger customers. Maybe start a social media presence. I stared at him. Derek did not know the names of our top 5 suppliers. He could not operate the inventory system I spent 2 years perfecting. He had never handled a difficult customer, never stayed late to finish a shipment, never showed up early to help a contractor who needed materials before a job started. He knew nothing about the relationships I built, the trust I earned, the reputation I protected, but he had fresh ideas. Dad added, his tone almost apologetic. We know you will support your brother. Family comes first, right? I took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside me. A door closing, a lock turning. I would not fight this. I would not beg or argue or show them how deeply they just cut me. I made a decision in that moment that surprised even me. Completely, I said, my voice calm and cold. I understand completely. My parents visibly relaxed. Mom smiled, relieved. Dad nodded, satisfied. Derek looked almost disappointed that I did not fight back, that I did not give him the satisfaction of my anger. When do you need me to transition everything to Derek? I asked, professional and detached. We were thinking next month, Dad suggested. That gives you time to show him the ropes. I will start documenting processes this week. I stood up, ready to leave. Anything else? They exchanged glances, confused by my composure. They expected anger or sadness or resistance. My calm acceptance unsettled them, but they took it as maturity and family loyalty. They had no idea what I was really planning. The next 4 weeks were the longest of my life. I came to work early every morning and created detailed manuals for every system in the store. I documented supplier contacts, customer preferences, inventory management protocols, seasonal ordering patterns, and maintenance schedules. I made it foolproof, assuming Derek would need all the help he could get. Derek barely paid attention during training sessions. He scrolled through his phone while I explained the ordering system. He interrupted me to take calls about his weekend plans. He dismissed my advice with phrases like, I will figure it out, and that seems complicated, I will simplify it. Watching him squander information I spent years learning was painful, but I kept my expression neutral and my tone professional. During those 4 weeks, I quietly copied my contact list of suppliers and contractors I had relationships with. I took photos of systems I built and workflows I created. I saved everything that was mine, everything I could legally take. I told nobody what I was really doing. My last day arrived on a Friday in late October. The leaves outside were turning gold and red, and the store felt different, like it already belonged to someone else. Dad shook my hand at the end of the day, awkward and formal. Mom hugged me, holding on a little too long, maybe sensing something she could not name. Derek clapped my shoulder and said, Thanks for being cool about this, little brother. I appreciate you not making it weird. I walked out of Henderson Hardware without looking back. I did not cry. I did not rage. I just got in my truck and drove away from 15 years of my life, carrying nothing but a cardboard box of personal items and a burning determination to prove them all wrong. The first month on my own was brutal in ways I did not anticipate. I rented a small apartment across town, 1 bedroom with thin walls and carpet that smelled like old cigarettes. The furniture came from IKEA, assembled with an Allen wrench and grim determination at 2 a.m. I worked a temporary job at a commercial construction site during the day, hauling materials and learning about large-scale building projects from the ground up. The work was hard and honest, and nobody there knew who I was or what I lost. My evenings belonged to something else entirely. I spread papers across that cheap IKEA table researching markets and suppliers, building business plans and financial projections. I ate cold pizza and drank gas station coffee while sketching ideas that felt both impossible and inevitable. I was creating something new, something mine, something nobody could take away. The silence from my family was deafening. Not one phone call asking how I was doing. Not one text checking if I landed okay. The absence of their concern told me everything I needed to know about where I ranked in their priorities. But I heard things through mutual acquaintances, through the contractor grapevine, through the small-town network that loved spreading news. Derek fired Mrs. Patterson in his second week. She had worked at Henderson Hardware for 20 years, knew every customer by name, and treated the store like her second home. Derek said she was resistant to change and stuck in old patterns. The contractors I knew were furious. Mrs. Patterson was beloved. Derek also switched suppliers to save money trading quality materials for cheaper alternatives. Within a month, contractors started complaining about product defects and late shipments. I heard about it through my construction site connections. Every piece of news felt like validation, but I bit my tongue and stayed focused on my own path. I was building something different. During my training sessions with Derek during all those years at Henderson Hardware, I noticed something the old business model ignored. Contractors kept asking about eco-friendly options, sustainable building materials, green alternatives to traditional products. The demand was growing, but supply was limited. That was my opening. I decided to start small and smart. I launched an online consultation service, first advising contractors on sustainable material choices. No overhead, no inventory, just knowledge and connections. I built a basic website on my laptop using free templates. I designed a logo using software that probably violated some licensing agreement. I printed business cards at a local shop, paying with money I scraped together from the construction job. Then I reached out to my old contractor contacts, the relationships I built over years of reliable service. I offered them something Henderson Hardware never could: expertise in green building materials, connections to suppliers specializing in sustainability, and competitive pricing on eco-friendly alternatives. They remembered me. They trusted me. They gave me a chance. My first client was a small renovation company looking for sustainable insulation options. I connected them with a supplier I found through research, negotiated pricing, coordinated delivery, and handled quality assurance. The job netted me $800 in profit. I sat in my tiny apartment staring at that check, feeling pride so intense it hurt. This was mine. I earned it. Nobody gave it to me. I named my company Build Right Solutions. The name meant something to me. Building things the right way, doing business with integrity, making decisions based on quality instead of shortcuts. Everything Henderson Hardware was supposed to be, but failed to become under Derek's leadership. 6 months in the business was growing faster than I imagined possible. Word of mouth in the contractor community was powerful. They appreciated straight answers, fair pricing, and materials that actually worked as advertised. I was working 16-hour days managing sourcing, sales, delivery, and bookkeeping by myself. The work was exhausting and exhilarating. I rented a small warehouse space in an industrial area outside town. Nothing fancy, just enough room for inventory and a small office. I hired my first employee, a young guy named Marcus, who reminded me of myself at his age, eager to learn, hungry to prove himself. I treated him the way I wished I had been treated, teaching him everything, paying him fairly, giving him respect. Build Right Solutions got featured in a local contractor newsletter. 3 sentences about the new sustainable material supplier making waves in the industry. 3 sentences that brought in 5 new clients. By the end of 6 months, revenue hit $40,000. It was not huge money, but it was mine, and it was growing. I still received no word from my family. Radio silence. Complete absence. But I drove past Henderson Hardware once during those 6 months just to see. The parking lot was half empty on a Wednesday afternoon. Sale signs cluttered the windows. The building looked tired, run down, neglected. I felt a pang of something complicated, maybe sadness mixed with vindication, but I kept driving. My focus was forward, not backward. 1 year after leaving Henderson Hardware Build Right Solutions, hit $100,000 in annual revenue. I hired 2 more employees. I moved to a better warehouse location with proper loading docks and climate control for sensitive materials. A regional business magazine featured my company in an article titled Young Entrepreneur Building Green. The exposure brought in larger clients and investor interest, though I declined outside investment. I wanted to keep ownership and control. My professional reputation was growing. Contractors knew me as reliable, knowledgeable, and fair. I showed up when I said I would. I delivered what I promised. I treated people with respect. Those simple standards set me apart in an industry full of shortcuts and broken commitments. Then I landed a contract that felt like poetic justice. A mid-sized construction company, one my father tried for years to court, as a client chose Build Right Solutions for their sustainable materials needs. They picked me over Henderson Hardware because of reputation, reliability, and product quality. My father never knew he lost that bid. Derek never knew it was even available. But I knew, and it felt like winning something bigger than a contract. Somewhere during that first year, I realized something surprising. I was happier than I ever was at the family business. The long hours did not feel like burden, but investment. The challenges were mine to solve. The victories were mine to celebrate. The business reflected my values, my standards, my vision. I built this. Every success was earned, not inherited. Every failure was a lesson, not a shame. Nobody could take it away because nobody gave it to me in the first place. I even started dating someone I met through a client, a project manager named Jordan, who appreciated hard work and understood ambition. Life felt like it was coming together in ways I never expected when I walked out of Henderson Hardware. 18 months after leaving, the rumors about my family's business became impossible to ignore. Henderson Hardware was struggling badly. Derek apparently lost 2 of the biggest wholesale clients due to quality issues and reliability problems. Store hours were reduced. Another longtime employee quit, citing Derek's mismanagement and hostile attitude. My father had to take money from his retirement account to cover operating debts. I felt conflicted hearing this news. Part of me wanted to help because they were still my family despite everything. Part of me knew it was not my problem anymore, that I owed them nothing after how they treated me. I did nothing. I stayed focused on Build Right Solutions. The business hit $150,000 in revenue and was on track to double that the following year. I had my own future to build. 2 years after I walked out of Henderson Hardware, my phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports, feeling satisfied with the growth trajectory and planning for expansion. The number on the screen was one I had not seen in 24 months. My mother. My finger hovered over the answer button. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail to avoid whatever conversation was coming. But curiosity, or maybe lingering family obligation, made me answer. Travis. My mother's voice sounded strained, tired, trying for casual and missing by miles. How are you, honey? I am doing well, busy with work. I kept my tone polite but guarded, giving nothing away. We miss you. The words felt rehearsed, obligatory. Your father asks about you. Small talk followed, forced and awkward, dancing around the real reason for the call. My mother asked about the weather, about my apartment, about whether I was eating well. I answered with minimal detail, waiting for her to get to the point. Finally, she did. We need to talk about the family business. My heart sank. I knew exactly where this was going. Derek is having some challenges. Her voice carried careful phrasing, understating what I already knew. The market has been tough. The economy, big box stores taking business. It is hard for small operations. I am sorry to hear that, I said, meaning it and not meaning it at the same time. Your father and I were hoping you might consider coming back to help. The words rushed out like she had been practicing this pitch. You know the business better than anyone. You always had such a good head for operations. Maybe you could consult for us, or we could make you a partner with Derek, work together as brothers. I sat in silence, processing the audacity of this request. 2 years of nothing. 2 years of complete absence. 2 years of not caring whether I succeeded or failed. And now they wanted me back because Derek failed exactly as spectacularly as I knew he would. Let me think about it, I finally said. I will call you back. I hung up before she could push further. I sat at my desk, staring at nothing, feeling emotions I thought I had moved past. Anger, hurt, vindication, sadness. They swirled together into something complicated and exhausting. 3 days later, I agreed to dinner at my parents' house. I told Jordan about it, and they advised caution. You do not owe them anything, Jordan said. Remember that. I drove to the house on Saturday evening, pulling up to the place I grew up, the place that felt both familiar and foreign now. The house looked the same from outside, same paint color, same landscaping, same porch where I learned to ride a bike. But walking through that door felt different, heavy with history and hurt. Mom and Dad looked older than I remembered. The stress showed in new lines around their eyes, gray hair at their temples, a tiredness that came from more than physical exhaustion. They hugged me, and it felt awkward, like we were strangers, performing the motions of family without the substance. Derek arrived 20 minutes late. He looked defeated in ways that went beyond physical appearance, though that had changed too. Weight gain, dark circles under bloodshot eyes, slumped posture. He mumbled a greeting and avoided eye contact. We sat down to dinner, and the awkward pleasantries continued through the first course. Nobody wanted to address the elephant in the room until Dad finally broke the uncomfortable silence. Travis, we need your help. The words came out heavy, loaded with more meaning than their simplicity suggested. Dad laid out the situation with brutal honesty that probably cost him pride to admit. Henderson Hardware was losing $12,000 a month. Suppliers were demanding cash on delivery because the business credit was destroyed. The lease on the building was in jeopardy because they had fallen behind on payments. They had maybe 3 months before bankruptcy. He listed Derek's mistakes with the clinical detachment of a coroner performing an autopsy. Poor inventory choices based on price instead of quality. Alienated loyal customers through price increases and reduced service. Failed modernization attempts, including a disastrous social media campaign featuring Derek posing with power tools he could not operate. Fired experienced employees and replaced them with minimum wage workers who knew nothing about hardware or customer service. Mom cried softly during the recitation, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. Derek stared at his plate, silent and humiliated. Dad pushed through the facts with grim determination to get to the ask. We thought Derek was ready. We were wrong. Dad's voice cracked slightly on that admission. We are asking you to come back, take over operations, fix this. We will sign the business over to you, full ownership. You would have what you always should have had. The offer hung in the air. 2 years ago, I would have killed for those words. Full ownership, the recognition that I was the right choice, the admission that they were wrong. But sitting at that table looking at the wreckage of what used to be a thriving business, I felt nothing but emptiness where triumph should have been. What about Derek? I asked, looking at my brother directly. Derek agrees to step down. Dad glanced at him. He knows he cannot fix this. Derek nodded without looking up. I messed up, I admit it. How much debt are we talking about? I kept my voice professional, treating this like a business consultation instead of family drama. The numbers painted a grim picture. $80,000 in debt spread across suppliers, the landlord, and business credit cards. The remaining inventory was worth maybe $30,000 if liquidated quickly. The business had 3 months before creditors would force bankruptcy, and they needed me to invest my own money to save it, pour cash into a sinking ship to keep it afloat long enough to turn around. Think about it, Mom urged. Take a few days. But please, Travis, we need you. I drove home in silence, my mind racing through scenarios and calculations. The pro and con lists wrote themselves. On one hand, I could get the family business I earned, save my parents from financial ruin, and prove definitively that I was right all along. On the other hand, I would have to pour my resources into a dying business, potentially sacrifice Build Right Solutions' momentum, and reward the people who rejected me when I needed their support. I called Harold an older supplier who became a mentor over the years. He believed in me when I started Build Right, gave me good terms, when I had nothing to offer but potential. His advice was simple and clear. You do not owe them anything. You already proved yourself. Do not let guilt guide you. If this makes business sense, fine. If not, walk away. I sat in my apartment looking at Build Right Solutions' financials spread across my coffee table. Strong revenue, growing client base, excellent reputation, skilled employees who depended on me, clear path forward. The business I built from nothing while Henderson Hardware crumbled under Derek's incompetence. I looked at those numbers and realized something. I did not want Henderson Hardware anymore. I had something better. I built something that mattered, something that reflected my values and vision. Taking on a failing business would mean abandoning what I created, and for what? To save people who did not save me when I needed them. The decision crystallized with surprising clarity. I knew what I had to do. 2 days later, I called my parents and asked them to come to my office. They arrived on Thursday afternoon, hope written across their tired faces. My office in the new warehouse was modern and clean, professional in ways Henderson Hardware never managed. Awards hung on the walls. Featured articles were framed beside photos of me with employees and clients. My parents looked around, seeing evidence of what I built without them. Travis, you have done so well, Mom said, genuine pride breaking through the desperation. Thank you. I worked hard for this. I gestured for them to sit. I appreciate you coming here. So what do you think? Dad leaned forward eagerly. Will you help us? I pulled a folder from my desk drawer and slid it across the table. Dad opened it slowly. His face fell as he read the contents. It was a brochure for small business loans from a regional bank, along with contact information for a business restructuring consultant who specialized in helping failing companies either recover or close gracefully. These resources will help you explore your options, I said calmly. Travis, we do not need a loan. We need you. Mom's voice rose with frustration. I understand, but I have my own company to run. I cannot take on Henderson Hardware. Dad's face turned red anger, replacing hope. After everything we did for you, we raised you, gave you a start in business, taught you everything you know. I stayed calm, my voice steady and clear. What did you do for me? You gave the business to Derek because you said he needed it more. You were right. He did need it. I did not. I built something better. But we are family, Mom protested. Family cuts both ways. When I needed you to see my value, you chose Derek. I respect that choice. You made it for your reasons. But do not ask me to fix his mistakes now. Derek, who had been quiet until now, spoke up from where he stood near the door. I messed up. I admit it. I cannot fix it. But maybe you can. I looked at my brother, seeing genuine remorse, maybe for the first time. I appreciate that, Derek, but this is not about revenge or proving a point. This is about reality. I have investors depending on me, employees counting on me, clients who trust me. I cannot jeopardize what I built to save something that should have been mine in the first place. So you are just going to let us lose everything? Dad's voice was bitter. You made a business decision 2 years ago. I am making one now. It is not personal. It is business. I pulled out another document, the final piece of my response. If you decide to close Henderson Hardware, I can offer you both part-time consulting work at Build Right Solutions. Fair wages, no nepotism, no special treatment. You would earn it like everyone else. The offer stunned them into silence. My parents exchanged glances, processing the reversal of power and expectation. The son they dismissed was now in position to employ them on his terms. I handed Dad another card, this one, for a bankruptcy attorney. If you decide closing is the best option, this person can help you navigate that process cleanly. Think about it. Let me know what you decide. I stood up, signaling the meeting was over. I am sorry things turned out this way. I really am. But I cannot save Henderson Hardware. That ship sailed 2 years ago. I showed them out, watching them walk to their car with slumped shoulders and shattered expectations. I returned to my desk and sat in the quiet office, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Sadness for what we could have been as a family, relief at maintaining boundaries, pride in standing firm, freedom from obligation I never actually owed. 3 months after that meeting, Henderson Hardware closed permanently. My parents filed bankruptcy, and the building where I grew up working was sold to a chain pharmacy. Derek moved to another state, taking a retail management position at a sporting goods store. I heard through the grapevine that he was doing okay, learning to be an employee instead of an owner, finding his actual level of competence. My parents did not contact me about the consulting offer. Pride or shame or some combination kept them away. I focused on Build Right Solutions. The company expanded into a second location in a neighboring city. I hired 10 more employees, bringing the team to 15 skilled professionals who shared my vision for sustainable building practices. Annual revenue hit $400,000, quadrupling what Henderson Hardware made in its best year. I promoted Marcus to operations manager. He earned it through hard work and dedication, proving himself every day, just like I did when nobody gave me a chance. Watching him grow reminded me why I built this company, why I chose this path over salvaging family legacy. Build Right Solutions was more than a business. It was proof that merit mattered more than nepotism, that hard work outweighed entitlement. My relationship with Jordan deepened. We talked about future plans, about building a life together, about what mattered beyond business success. Having someone who supported me without agenda or obligation helped heal wounds I did not know still bled. I realized something during those months. I did not think about Henderson Hardware anymore. The anger faded. The hurt became background noise. I built something better than revenge. I built a life worth living. 6 months after Henderson Hardware closed, I received an unexpected email from my mother. The subject line read simply, "Coffee." The message was brief and humble. "Can we meet? I want to talk. Just you and me. No pressure. Let me know. Love, Mom." I agreed to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our locations. Neutral territory, low stakes. When I arrived, Mom was already there, looking different than I expected. Lighter somehow, less burdened. She smiled when she saw me, genuine warmth replacing the desperate need from our last meeting. We ordered coffee and sat in a corner booth. Small talk came easier this time, less forced. She asked about Build Right Solutions, and I told her about the expansion, the new employees, the projects that excited me. She listened with real interest, asking questions that showed she actually cared about my success. Then she said something that surprised me. I wanted to apologize. We were wrong about Derek and wrong about you. We favored him because we worried about him because he always seemed to need more help, more support, more chances. But we underestimated you. We did not see your strength because you never needed us to rescue you. I appreciate you saying that. I responded, meaning it more than I expected to. Your father is too proud to say this himself, but he is proud of you. He reads every article about build right solutions. He cut out the feature from the business magazine and keeps it in his wallet. She smiled sadly. He knows he messed up. He just does not know how to fix it. How are you both doing? I asked, genuinely curious. We downsized to a smaller house. Your father does consulting for contractors, helping them with project management and cost estimation. I work part-time at a garden center. Honestly, we are happier, less stress. The business was drowning us for years. Losing it was almost a relief once we got past the shame. That admission shifted something in my understanding. Henderson Hardware was not just stolen from me. It was also a burden released from them. Maybe we all ended up where we needed to be. Derek called last week. Mom continued. He is doing okay. He has a girlfriend. He is talking about proposing. He said losing the business was the best thing that happened to him. He learned he is not a business owner. He is happier being someone else's employee. I felt surprised by that information and oddly touched. Maybe we all found our proper places in the world after the family structure collapsed. Can we start over? Mom asked. Not as business partners, not with obligations or expectations, just as family, just as people who care about each other. I thought about her question, weighing years of hurt against the possibility of healing. I would like that, I finally said. We talked for 2 hours. Real conversation without agenda or performance. Honest. Healing. Not perfect, but better. When we parted ways, the hug felt more genuine than any in years. 2 weeks later, my father showed up at the Build Right Solutions warehouse unannounced. He stood in the parking lot looking uncertain, maybe even scared. I saw him through my office window and walked out to meet him. "Can I see what you built?" he asked awkwardly. I gave him a tour of the facility, showed him the organized inventory system, the client management software, the employee break room with decent coffee and comfortable seating. He watched how I interacted with my team, respectful, encouraging, teaching instead of commanding. He saw the culture I created, the standards I maintained, the business I built from nothing but determination and skill. When we returned to my office, he stood looking at the framed articles and awards. "You learned the right lessons," he finally said. "I taught you the skills, but you learned the values somewhere else." "I learned from watching what not to do," I replied honestly. He laughed, a sad sound that carried regret. "Fair enough." He turned to face me. "I am sorry, son. I chose wrong. I picked the wrong son for the wrong reasons, and it cost all of us. You chose what you thought was right. I am not angry anymore." "Can I take you up on that consulting offer?" he asked. "Part-time, fair wage, no special treatment." "Part-time, fair wage, no special treatment," I confirmed. We shook hands, and it felt different this time. Real respect, earned trust. Not father and son trying to navigate family politics, but two professionals recognizing each other's worth. 1 year after Henderson Hardware closed, I received a letter in the mail. Actual paper, handwritten, old-fashioned communication. The return address was from Derek in his new city. I opened it curious and slightly wary. Derek wrote about his life now. Assistant manager at a sporting goods store. Engaged to a woman who worked in the same shopping center. Planning a small wedding. He sounded content, maybe even happy. The letter included an apology that felt genuine, admitting entitlement and jealousy and failure to appreciate what I did. "You were always the better businessman," he wrote. I was jealous. I am not anymore. I found my place. Thank you for not bailing me out. I needed to fail. I needed to learn who I actually am instead of who I thought I should be. The letter included a wedding invitation. I discussed it with Jordan, and we decided to attend. The wedding was simple and genuine, held in a park with close friends and family. Derek introduced me to his fiancée with pride instead of competition. We talked not close but cordial, finding new ground as brothers who took very different paths. "Thank you for not saving me," Derek said at one point during the reception. "I know that sounds weird, but you gave me the gift of consequences. I learned more from failing than I ever learned from being handed things." "We all find our path eventually," I replied. 5 years after leaving Henderson Hardware Build Right Solutions, celebrated its anniversary with a party at the warehouse. 25 employees, dozens of clients, friends, and family gathered to mark the milestone. Revenue had topped $1.2 million annually. We were expanding into a third location. Industry publications featured us as a model for sustainable business practices. My parents attended the party. Dad worked part-time for me now, consulting on complex projects, contributing his experience without trying to control. Mom brought food. She made mothering everyone in the best possible way. Derek and his wife drove up for the event, bringing a gift and genuine congratulations. I stood in the middle of that celebration, surrounded by people I hired and trained clients I served. With integrity friends I made through honest work and family slowly healing from old wounds. Jordan stood beside me, partner in business and life. I thought about the path that brought me here, the rejection that became freedom, the betrayal that became motivation. Sometimes the greatest gift is being underestimated. It forces you to prove yourself in ways you never would have if things came easy. I thought I needed my parents' validation, their approval, their recognition. Turns out I just needed to believe in myself. The business I built is not just more successful than Henderson Hardware. It is mine. Every brick, every decision, every success and failure belongs to me. They did not give me anything, and that became the best thing they could have done. When your family tells you they are giving your inheritance to someone else and asks if you understand, sometimes the most powerful response is complete agreement. Then you go build something better, something that proves them wrong and proves yourself right, something that matters more than legacy or tradition or family politics. You build something true. Have you ever been passed over by your own family? Have you ever been underestimated by people who should have believed in you? What did you do about it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges and building success on your own terms. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being overlooked is not the end of your story, but possibly the beginning of something better. Thank you for listening to my journey. I hope it reminds you that your worth is not determined by who recognizes it, but by what you build when nobody is watching. Until next time, keep building your own path forward.